Welcome to the New Year's special, which is going to be split into two videos.
Welcome, the Gamer Man's Lounge. Awaken to play.
In terms of how are things going, I hope things are going well for you. As for me, welcome to the Gamer Man's Lounge. I am Lord Gamerman of this lounge, and here... Oh, wait a minute. Are you asking... Why are we even... What is it about the New Year's that we're even celebrating? What is it even about it that it's worth celebrating? And that's a good question you ask. Whew, boy. Well, we have to be careful with our activities for our holiday specials. As a matter of fact, considering the circumstances, this is why the only holiday specials we could celebrate going forward are the New Year's. That is the way that it is, because of how everything is. However, I don't need to repeat myself, I've already stated things in previous videos. But anyway, with that totally said, oh wait, I'm supposed to review the year 2022, which means I get to essentially, I might have to pretty much essentially say the same thing over and over again. If you didn't learn anything from 2014, or if you didn't learn anything from 2016, or 2017, or 2018, or 2019, or 2020 and 2021, what 2022 teaches us is... yeah, don't keep your hopes up. As a matter of fact, we've been dealing with numerous bad years in a row. Let's think about that. 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019... 2020, 2021, and 2022. If we're having to deal with a whole lot of consecutive record-breaking bad years in a row, then we're probably in a very serious situation, with that totally said. And with that totally said, 2022's ultimate goal was to basically help create the 2020 trilogy. 2020 was the beginning. 2021 was the middle. I almost sounded like a certain boxer. Okay. He had his own NES game. But anyway, let's get right on going. So, 2020 was the beginning. 2021 was basically the sequel. But 2022's ultimate goal was to represent 2020 and 2021 and form the 2020 trilogy, and boy, it was a glorious success. Very, very successful. However, with that totally said, last decade should tell you that there's probably going to be more than one elephant in the room. As a matter of fact, throughout 2022, the themes stay on, alongside as we're dealing with increasing gas prices or inflation or the recession that might be coming. There's also stuff from last decade that are carrying into this decade far worse than ever. Say, for example, how I predicted how in 2022 the excessive cases of excessive censorship in video games could get worse, especially if we're talking about fictional media, like video games. Sorry about the hiccup. But let me get a drink. A game that's especially worth your pick for Game of the Year 2022 is going to be scarce, because it's getting really, really harder to trust games. Because it's not just censorship that hits up video games, it's also predatory monetization practices, games getting rushed out, and games getting made with low efforts. And now, more new problems are making their way. Anti-video game preservation situations, as a matter of fact, with what we saw happen to the 3DS shop, or what we saw happen to, well, let's just say how Sony decided to procrastinate on going to games from PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and PlayStation 3, but then they finally started doing it. But however, you'll end up eventually finding out the hard way that you're going to have to eventually go through the cloud if you want to play your precious PlayStation 3 games. And yeah, it really sucks. And of course, we're seeing a lot of predatory microtransaction practices happen far more. Hence, we saw a whole lot of anti-consumer stuff happen. But however, going back to video game preservation, we saw Soul Calibur 1 and 2 both delisted off the Xbox Store. I didn't realize that until now and read multiple articles of it. It took one search, one bloody goddamn search on the Xbox Store to find out the hard way that I was lucky enough to get both Soul Calibur 1 and Soul Calibur 2 before it was too late. This is far more scary. However, we may see a Soul Calibur HD collection. That might be a possibility, but at this point we'll definitely see. However, there is some great people that did help things in terms of not just creative freedom, but video game preservation. As a matter of fact, we managed to see Evercade go off very strong than ever, getting its well-deserved reputation. As a matter of fact, the Evercade VS home console was stellar, and I don't have the Evercade EXP handheld yet, but I trust that it was still great. Way better than the old handheld that we're stuck with, until I can get my hands on the EXP. However, with that totally said, now that we're on the topic of Evercade, Evercade has been having difficulties, just like the creators of the House of the Dead remake. Licensing complications play a huge role. And going back to the House of the Dead remake, we had to deal with a new soundtrack rather than the classic tracks due to licensing complications. It takes downloading a mod for the PC version to bring back the classic tracks. Yikes. However, going back to Evercade, yes, licensing issues are going to be, of course, a situation for Blaze Entertainment, the creators of the Evercade handheld. But however, this wasn't the only thing that burdened Blaze Entertainment. What also burdened Blaze Entertainment was, of course, the fact that we just found out, and of course Evercade came up and confirmed that there were Evercade EXPs limited editions that just got robbed before it was even shipped out to everyone's homes. Oh, I mean, not just everyone's homes. Everyone who bought the Evercade EXP special editions. So, yeah. It was a really unfortunate situation for Blaze Entertainment to go through, and we hope for the best. And the situation with what happened to the Evercade EXP scares us. Really scares us. Even if it's the special editions. However, there's not just one guy, but other guys too. Forever Entertainment, responsible for publishing the House of the Dead remake, of course. As a matter of fact, there's also the S Collection from, or what was it? The S Tribute Collection. Yeah, here we go. The S Tribute Collection from City Connection, expanding to 2 Taito games, Cleopatra Fortune and Elevator Action. So, of course, not just that, but the Sega Saturn versions, considering the Saturn Tribute label. So, that's something very interesting, right? Of course it's going to be interesting. However, Hamster has managed to also get a hold of some big cult classic hits, like Tetris the Grandmaster from Arica, which I just booted up on my Nintendo Switch. Well, downloaded onto my Nintendo Switch, booted up on my Nintendo Switch, went to town and tested my Tetris skills, and boy, was it a good time. However, moving on over to the cases of excessive censorship, well, let's just say it affects games in a worldwide scale, just like the other things that I just mentioned, like games getting rushed out and games getting paywalled. It's worldwide. Nobody is not safe. Not even Japan. As a matter of fact, Japanese developer Curiate, hopefully I said that developer name right, had 2 games delisted. Well, one game suddenly delisted off the eShop, the other they had to cancel. One game being Dual Princess and the other being Beat Raffle, formerly Massage Freaks. However, we did see these games get re-released elsewhere besides Steam. Well, Dual Princess released elsewhere besides Steam, but Beat Raffle released on Steam with a restoration patch. So, if you want all of the content, you're going to have to download that patch at the official website. Cases of excessive censorship in video games have gone more rampant than ever. If it's not just altering designs or covering things up, it's also changing lines around through localization. And it just brought up another scary thought. So, and that brings us into discussing translation jobs when it comes to games being localized. For some reason, it feels as if the lines were essentially changed around to try to be, if it's not trying to be trendy or trying to be hip and cool or trying to pull a how do you do fellow kids, it's also changing things around to make it more morally or politically appropriate, which seems to be really concerning than ever, if that is to be the case. I have seen comparison Twitter screenshots of it, and boy, it is not pretty. And no gacha game was very safe neither, as a matter of fact. Oh boy, here's where we get really, really into it. Games like Genshin Impact had a few characters had their outfits altered. As a matter of fact, it's gone worse. We saw Nikke hit with alleged censorship. Nikke, Goddess of Victory. And of course, we also saw things go bad when we saw outfits were slightly altered, where we saw parts that were supposed to be transparent, but they were less transparent than ever. And of course, we're talking about Tower of Fantasy. Yes, it is gone bad. The cases of excessive censorship has gone bad, gone far worse than ever. It's not pretty, and it's out of control, it's getting out of hand, and we've yet to figure out what the heck is going on, and we've yet to figure out very much a measure that will protect creative freedom. And this leads into what 2022 teaches everybody. It's going to be really hard to trust games going forward. And we will get more into that when we go to part 2, when we enter 2023. However, with that totally said, well, our gaming is our only stuff that we end up most of the time relying on because we have to be careful with everything we do, especially when it comes to our daily activities, indoor, outdoor, or in the comfort of our own home. We have to be careful. As a matter of fact, I've already mentioned how in grocery stores, you don't want to stick around too long, and you do want to do what you can to stay out of everybody's way. So you're kind of stuck getting what little you have the ability to get. Even though if you have the plenty and plenty of money, so doesn't matter if you beat inflation or you beat those rising costs, you may only have time to grab very fewer items, and then take a dip. And I just remembered just now, as a matter of fact, I just so remembered. Game Jolt went pretty much, let's just say they made a huge firebombed and set it off on the R18 Plus industry that they had going on Game Jolt. They were fine with it now, but they're having problems with it. Just like what happened with eBay last year. Oh, also, oh boy, Sony bought Right Stuff through Crunchyroll. Sony, through Crunchyroll, went and bought Right Stuff. And if you've seen our official tweets at the Gamerman's Lounge where we reposted all of this, well, let's just say there was a slightly better ending to it. But however, Sony bought Right Stuff. And of course, with Sony having the rights to Right Stuff, That means anything spicier has got to go. But this ended up including interspecies reviewers on Blu-ray, which was our only legal means of getting a hold of the anime. As a matter of fact, there was a miracle that did happen. Parts of Right Stuf splitted from Right Stuf to form into a new company that is known to be Buy Anime. And because of Buy Anime, Buy Anime, guys, took with them the Critical Mass Media anime publishing label, meaning that they have the rights to Critical Mass Media. However, their company name that we know is Arrow Anime Store, or Arrow Anime Site. But however, the Arrow Anime guys managed to basically get a hold of Critical Mass Media and was able to basically put back on sale interspecies reviewers on Blu-ray. Now, let me go ahead and check online in case I said the name of that store wrong. No, we were right. BuyAnime.com. BuyAnime.com. That's their name that they're known for now. Okay, so BuyAnime.com is the go-to for Critical Mass Video stuff, especially interspecies reviewers on Blu-ray. And not just that, any of the spicy stuff that was basically booted off Right Stuf. What 2022 taught us is that there's an ongoing rat race to cause the biggest poop show of the year. And it's been going on constant. And it has most of the time created domino effects, which has led to serious events. Courtesy of this rat race, this is where our personal lives become affected too. But anyway, let's segue onto something different that we also should remember. NVIDIA biting off more than they can chew. Yes, I've warned a few years back that NVIDIA cannot afford to make a serious goof up. But boy, did they really do so when it came to the launch of the 40 series cards, the 4090 cards, and the 4080 cards. If it wasn't the price that was very gouging, it was definitely also the melting cables that was happening with the 4090 cards. And of course, being beefier, eating up space, and of course, essentially, absolutely demanding more power, and of course, melting cables too. There's also the 4080 series. And of course, this puts them in a very serious, dangerous situation. And as an NVIDIA fan, if people are ending up flocking to Radeon way more than NVIDIA GeForce cards, I'm not going to be surprised. I'm going to understand why. I don't blame them. Absolutely understandable. Because, really, to be honest with you here, NVIDIA kind of really opened themselves into a situation where AMD can basically step their game up and, of course, swoop in and rip NVIDIA a new one. However, moral of this thing, competition spanks the winner if the winner is not careful. Competition can be punishing. And of course, this is why competition is a big damn deal as well. Because thanks to competition, we have plenty of options. And because we have plenty of options, and of course, courtesy of competition, we see a whole lot of benefits. Especially prices of graphics cards and prices of consoles. Let's think about that. Boy oh boy, I feel distressed. But however, if I were to continue on talking about and remembering off the top of my head that, oh right, I just remembered on the top of my head that I was trying to say that I would love to go ahead and recap everything that went wrong with 2022, because as a matter of fact, literally every single goddamn thing went wrong with 2022. But hey, it is the way that it is. We'd be there in quite for a way longer time. And that totally said, I've already exhausted my head, so let me grab some hot cocoa. I also need to go to the bathroom. I didn't grab me a cup of hot cocoa. But, however, with that totally said, let's go ahead and finish off the year review with definitely saying 2022 is the worst year ever. just like how the other years were the worst ever. We were dealing with numerous bad years in a row, let's be honest here. But hey, 2022 did not surprise me that it would go as a complete bad year. And at least I made the best of 2022. Hip hip hooray. And that's a bright side. All I gotta say is move on. And with that totally said, that's gonna do it for part 1, which is my review of the year 2022. Now, we can go ahead and just get started on our New Year's celebrations, but don't get too cocky. Don't go and be like, haha, F you 2022, or haha, 2022, you suck. Because we didn't even think about the new year, 2023, which is what part 2 is going to happen. Part 2. This is a video product made by a fellow gamer man. We hope that you enjoy the content, and we also hope that you enjoyed the shenanigans. We'll be looking forward to you in the next video. Peace out. Heyo!